most abundant organic, not that the others are not abundant, but I am saying that this is probably the most abundant because somewhere it is related with all the plants and the animal kingdom. Okay, most abundant organic molecule. So it is an important molecule and we must look at the structure of it. Establishing the structure. You know, the simplest thing that one can do is in the laboratory primarily to find out what glucose contains. Glucose primarily contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Only these three elements, and their relative proportion also is known. And if you know their relative proportion, you know what you can establish? Can anybody tell me? You can establish empirical formula. And from separate study, if you know the molecular mass, you know molecular mass can be determined for a given molecule. You have just studied in your colligative property chapter, remember? Because molecular mass depends upon the number of particles for a given solvent solution, right? So you can find out the molecular mass. And you have solved many numericals in your 11th class analytical chemistry that if you know molecular mass and empirical formula of a given organic compound, you can establish molecular formula. So from pure chemical analysis of elements and their percentage composition, you can, and also from the knowledge of molecular mass, you can establish the molecular formula of given compound. So glucose has molecular formula of C6H12O6. This formula by itself does not tell you how the carbons are distributed, how the hydrogens and oxygen and the bonding pattern and the structure. This is all the information. So this is the most fundamental basic information. So we will list here the first basic information about glucose. To start with, the molecular formula of glucose is C6H12O6. Okay, so this is where is the first step. Second step is you can actually try to analyze the arrangement of carbon itself, because that will form the backbone of the entire molecule. So the simple chemical reaction that can be done is whatever kind of organic molecule you have, simply try to convert it into the just carbon and hydrogen. Okay, you try to reduce the complexity of all the other elements that are known, and that can be done because it contains oxygen. Can you reduce glucose? So the simplest reaction that can be utilized to reduce glucose, suppose if I take glucose, which is C6H12O6, and simply heat it with hydrogen halide, hydrogen iodide for a prolonged period of time, and you know that is where you will have reduced carbons. All the carbons will, if they carry oxygen also, everything will be reduced, so there will be only hydrocarbon, and it gives us completely the compound which is normal hexane. So glucose on prolonged heating with HI gave normal hexane. That means CH3, CH2, 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 CH2 and then CH3. That simply tells you the fact that this suggests that glucose is a straight chain carbon compound. Well, normal hexane is the resultant. The simple fact is that you get only normal hexane, and the product, the formation of normal hexane suggests that the glucose must be a straight chain carbon. Make sense? Let's take another important reaction which suggests a lot about the nature of functional group. Well, it is property. So it is a known fact that this glucose actually contains OH, functional, also be established by variety of experiment. Okay, so it contains OH group and we will see those reaction here. But another important thing about the glucose is that it is actually is a carbonyl. It also contains carbonyl. Okay, so this is also a fact. It contains a carbonyl and it contains aldehyde. We will see how. So I'm just simply writing here these two groups are present on this glucose. They will be also necessary how they are present, where they are present, in what number they are present to establish the entire structure. So this is also a fact. Primary fact can be known. So what kind of reaction you can actually use to find out whether there is a carbonyl or not? Well, if you remember, there are specific reaction. For example, if you have a carbonyl group, doesn't matter whether it is aldehyde or ketone. When you allow it to react with hydroxylamine, remember NH2OH, and there were derivatives of this hydroxylamine, and if you try to react with this, you get oxime kind of structure. Remember this? There is double bond N and then OH. This kind of structure formation happens, which is known as oxime. And the formation of oxime actually tells you that you have a carbonyl group. We have not yet established whether it is aldehyde or ketone, but at least carbonyl is there. So any carbonyl establish the same thing through multiple routes also. If you remember, the carbonyl also gave very unique reaction with hydrogen cyanide, and that gives you cyanohydrine. That's another derivative. So multiple reactions can establish that you have a carbonyl in glucose. So here also you get cyanohydrine OH, where hydrogen cyanide is added. So all these reaction, cyanohydrine formation and oxime formation, derivatives. So these derivative formation indicate the presence of carbonyl. I am still not saying aldehyde, but I am simply saying carbonyl group on glucose. We will see how many, that's a later part. We will account all the number of functional group also later. Okay, so first I am saying there is a presence of carbonyl. Even if you have more than one carbonyl, they will also lead to these derivatives. You can account that slowly. So this is another fact that we can establish about glucose. First is molecular formula, and from very preliminary investigation you can say there is a functional group, but you don't have to even know it here. Another thing is that about the backbone carbon chain, and third thing is about the content of its functional group, which is carbonyl primarily. Okay, let's look at what the nature of this carbonyl is. So there is another reaction which will tell you that this carbonyl is actually aldehyde. How do we know that? Because if you take glucose again, okay, by the way, I have talked about this carbonyl in glucose. This carbonyl in glucose. So you get this derivative in glucose, okay, which is bromine. It's a very mild oxidizing agent, bromine water. So main reagent is just the bromine. So when you try to treat glucose with bromine water, the color of bromine will disappear. That means it is reacting with it. Actually speaking, it will convert this aldehyde group of glucose into carboxylic acid group. So glucose, aldehyde, CHO. Why do we say that it is aldehyde then? Suppose if I ask you this question, can you think of? Yes, you remember aldehydes are terminal groups, right? Suppose there is a chain here R, and is by, let's say, even milder oxidation condition or strong, doesn't matter, you get COOH group, right? But if it was a ketone, think about this. If it was a ketone, that should be in between the chain. That means the oxidation of this, first of all, it will not be easy oxidation, because now it is talking about breaking these, carboxylic acid is a terminal group. So you can only produce carboxylic acid on the terminal. That means by breaking only, either you break here or here, doesn't matter. So you can produce probably two type of carboxylic acid here like this. So your original carbon length will break. Okay, you will get a mixture and your original carbon length will break because your carboxylic acid is terminal. So oxidation of ketone to carboxylic acid, first of all, it requires strong, very strong oxidizing condition. Okay, another thing is that this bromine water we have used is a mild oxidizing condition. Even in milder oxidizing condition, you can convert aldehyde into carboxylic acid. So, and another thing here, if you examine, I have written here glucose. That means the carbon length is intact. Here, the carbon length is not changed with total carbon number 6. Okay, and this compound is referred to as gluconic acid because it is the acid of glucose. So I am writing here the name gluconic acid. I will show you the structure of this later. Gluconic acid. So glucose to gluconic acid we prepared basically. Okay, and this gluconic acid has 6 carbon in its chain. That means we are not breaking it up. That means it cannot be ketone. Did you see the logic here? The carbonyl in glucose is aldehyde. Okay, so it has to be aldehyde group. Make sense? Is aldehyde. Okay, this is another thing. Okay, and then let's see what about the another functional group. So this is one functional group we have established. I am still not saying how many of them, but at least we know that there is a carbonyl which is aldehyde. Okay, let's look at the another functional group's property. When you treat glucose with acetic anhydride or acetic acid also, acetic O, CS3CO twice O. This is your acetic anhydride. Remember acetic anhydride, which is CS3CO. This is like a carbonyl, and this is OCH3. Or you can say that if you hydrolyze this with water, you get acetic acid. If you try to remember that, it is like if you break this one and hydrolyze this one, you get acetic acid, which is like putting OH. Okay, if you hydrolyze this, you get 2 molecules of acetic acid. So either this one or this one, doesn't matter. You are using everything in water, so they will actually give you this ultimately. So basically you are reacting acetic acid molecule with glucose, and glucose gives us ester functional group. So we get ester formation, which is C between C and this. Okay, I made a mistake here. Okay, so there is a formation of ester here. So you get minus water. The reaction between alcohol and acid gives you ester, OCOCH3. Okay, this is known to us, ester formation. So we get from glucose ester when you treat it with acetic anhydride. That suggests that there must be presence. So this suggests the presence of OH groups, alcoholic functional group. And how many? Well, we can actually find out now by some other reaction, by breaking them and then try to estimate by titration how many acetic acid molecules are produced from each molecule of glucose, ester of glucose. Remember, so all these analytical method, if you do, you can actually establish. We find out that there are 5 OH groups present on glucose. By what you can do is, you prepare this derivative, now break this, you again hydrolyze, so you can recover from each glucose molecule how many acetic acid molecules are producing. Okay, so if you hydrolyze, you get 5 acetic acid, and then you can titrate with base, so you can know how much of acid is produced from this ester molecule. So each glucose contains 5 OH group. We can establish this. Okay, so 5 of these OH molecule are converted into 5 of these esters. There is another connected establishment which can be done, that all these OH groups exist on different carbons called steric hindrance. you see that ester formation is a very bulky group. So if you try to produce two ester on the same carbon, it will be very, very difficult. Like if I say that, suppose if you have the one functional group OH on this carbon, okay, and then you have other thing also, and if you try to convert this into ester, it'll be easy, you can convert this. But if you have multiple OH group on the same carbon, you know, it is a three-dimensional structure. I am straightening it out, but actually three-dimensional structure. So having formation of diester on the same carbon is not that easy. Okay, reactivity wise also and steric factor wise also. So this is not an easy formation or efficient formation. With regard to steric factor and also the, yeah, basically mainly primarily I should say steric factor. So if suppose you could efficiently produce 5 esters from 5 OH, that means all these OH group must be lying on separate carbon. If it was multiple OH on the same carbon, you wouldn't have obtained that easily. You would have actually, you see what we have already established, this glucose is a 6-chain carbon and it has one terminal COH group, right? So then remaining carbon are 5 only, and I have already said that there are 5 OH group and they all are lying on individual carbon. That itself tells you that you all the carbon now have single OH group. So actually if I want to write down the structure of glucose, it should be CHO in a straight chain. If I want to write down CH2OH, CH, okay, let me do this, CH2OH, CHOH. Okay, not to confuse, let me write all the orientations one side, doesn't matter right now. CHOH, CHOH, 1 2 3 4 5 excuse me, CHOH. Okay, so all the OH group are on the separate carbon only with this establishment we can do this. By oxidation reaction again, you remember if you have primary alcohol, you can directly oxidize to carboxylic acid group, है ना, primary, and that oxidation will be easier, just like aldehyde can be easily oxidized to carboxylic acid. So primary alcohols can be oxidized easily to carboxylic acid. Let's say if you use just nitric acid, HNO3, okay. But secondary OH group, suppose if it is there, first of all this oxidation is not easy, right? It requires strong oxidizing condition, strong. You want to convert this into COOH group, OH group into COOH group, you require strong oxidizing condition. Secondary, that means you will be breaking somewhere in between. That means this itself will break the molecule, small chain. So you will get small chain carboxylic acids, but this will be 6 carbon carboxylic acid. So that simply tells you, okay, right now that you have, so you could do this reaction. Okay, we are not talking about this reaction right now. I am saying that you could oxidize a glucose with nitric acid and you get a product which contains 2 carboxylic acid, for example. Because if you take this molecule to start with, okay, now let's say I write here this one, and then you simply oxidize with nitric acid, you get terminal COOH group formation, which is because of this. So COOH, CH2OH, CH2OH, because first of all nitric acid cannot oxidize the secondary OH group, CH2OH, CH2OH, and also nitric acid can also oxidize this one, so this can also get converted into COOH. So this one which is coming from OH group, which must be primary, so this establishes that one of the OH group must be primary or terminal, ठीक है ना. ये आपको यहाँ से पता चलता है। और इस सैकेरिक एसिड ओके। सो ये सारे जो फैक्ट हैं आपने एस्टैब्लिश किया है इस सारी चीज़ों से अभी तक कि ग्लूकोज का स्ट्रक्चर जो है वो कुछ इस तरह का होता है। बट देन इफ यू कंसिडर द ऑप्टिकल एक्टिविटी, so a lot of work on glucose primarily by considering its optical activity was done by someone called Fischer. He considered the optical activity of the compound also, and finally he proposed there is something called as Fischer projection. Okay, Fischer projection. So we are going to write down the structure of glucose in Fischer projection. Fischer projection. Now we don't have to learn this, okay, but this is one of the easier way to represent the three-dimensional structure of sugars considering their optical activity also in the plane of paper itself. Okay, so according to Fischer, the glucose structure after considering its optical properties, the glucose structure can be represented best the plane of the paper. About this, but let me represent how Fischer's structure of glucose can be represented. So let's say the prominent functional group as an identity of glucose, which is aldehyde, and then you have carbon. Let me represent first all the 6 carbons here, because CH2OH. This one I have directly considered CH2OH. You can write OH on any side, doesn't matter, because this is not optically active carbon. Do you agree with me? But apart from that, all the other carbon will be optically active because they all carry OH and hydrogen, and all the groups are different on each carbon. So for example, this carbon, this is your carbon number 1, this is your carbon number 2, carbon number 3, 4, 5 and 6. So the way in which bonds have to be represented is the second carbon, this is anyway carbaldehyde, okay, the OH is represented on the right hand side, second carbon OH, hydrogen on the left hand side. Then from third carbon OH is on the right hand side, hydrogen on the left hand side. Then you represent this OH on carbon 4th and 5th on the right hand side only, just like on second carbon. Okay, now this is a correct representation by considering the optical activity. This carbon is optically active because you see aldehyde group, hydrogen, OH, and entire this group you have to consider different, right? No doubt about this. Let's look at this carbon. You can't talk about optical activity because it has double bond, right? So it is not like 4 groups are different. How about this one, last one, 6th one? This has 2 hydrogen, so it cannot be optically active. At least 2 groups are same. How about okay, let me start from here itself. Third carbon, if you see this group on this carbon and this group, completely different group, right? The entire group on third carbon should be regarded as this group and this group. So these 2 groups are completely different, and then this and this are also different from all of them. So actually speaking, this is also optically active. Look at this carbon. For this carbon, HOH anyway different. This group entirely different from this group. So even this is optically active. And look at this one, 5th one. Even for this, entire this group is different from this and this and this. So 4 carbons are actually optically active. Okay. All 4 except the aldehyde and the last carbon 6 one are optically active. Now this is, I will come back to this, but I am saying that this is a Fischer projection of glucose and you should learn how to represent this. You should not represent randomly because the orientation of OH that is given in this structure is, it does consider the optical activity, and you should not represent randomly. And it is the simplest representation in the plane of paper because all the bonds are represented as if they are stretched out on the plane of paper, but actually it is not a two-dimensional structure. It should be a three-dimensional structure. Complex. Okay, so you can try to draw by yourself, try to see how difficult it would be to represent on the piece of paper, and also by considering the optical activity, left levorotatory versus dextrorotatory, very difficult, na? So there are certain rules in Fischer projection which accounts that to represent an optically active compound, and this is how it is represented. So please just keep this orientation of OH and H only in your mind, that will help you easily. Except this third carbon, you can say that second carbon, fourth carbon and fifth carbon, all the OH are oriented to the right hand side and hydrogen on the other side. Now, you know, we can't predict right now which carbon will give you dextrorotation and which carbon will give you levorotation, because each carbon can have its own optical activity, right? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Every carbon will have its own optical activity, whether it is dextro or levo. You can't predict just by looking at the structure. You have to do the actual measurement, right? So right now we do not know that, but there will be either addition or cancellation of optical activity, right? So there will be net optical activity of any molecule which carries more than one optically active carbon. If it is a single carbon, we know it is only one carbon that is responsible for optical activity. But if there are multiple, then they will cancel each other's effect also, or they may add up if they are both activity. So I'm just trying to say that the net optical activity of this carbon entire molecule will be the sum of optical activity of all the carbons. Okay, so we don't have to worry too much about that. But let's say glucose does have optical activity, and let me tell you, glucose actually gives a dextrorotation. It is a dextrorotatory. Okay, so glucose is dextrorotatory, or you can say in simple term we represent this by plus sign. That's why glucose is written as plus glucose, optically active. But then there are certain other aspects that are considered in order to name this kind of representation, because please see, this representation right now is not included in the nomenclature. Do you agree with me? This is only the representation of optical activity. But suppose if there is another formula I write down for glucose, okay, and that also net activity is positive. If you do sum and addition, suppose, but in that formula, suppose its OH is represented here, hydrogen is represented here, and that formula also gives me net activity as plus dextro. How do you discriminate then the two formula, right? So those kind of difficulties are there still in the nomenclature. So we have a way of identifying further glucose is this formula specifically only for glucose by taking into account some kind of referential nomenclature. Okay, to further advance the clear-cut nomenclature of glucose, considering the optical activity and the structural arrangement also, there is a reference compound called glyceraldehyde, and the formula is, that is also aldehyde compound, and it's a 3-carbon compound which has OH, H and CH2OH. This compound is glyceraldehyde of this central carbon. Here the central carbon is optically active, right? You can see that first carbon and third carbon is not, but the central carbon is optically active. And the way I have adopted the structure right now is by considering some aspect of Fischer projection. So OH is represented on the right hand side and H is represented on the left hand side. Okay, the plus glyceraldehyde. This is a plus glyceraldehyde. Okay, but if I represent the same formula of glyceraldehyde for its another isomer, because this will only have one optically active isomer, right? Because there is only one carbon which is optically active. I can have another projection of the glyceraldehyde, and that can be with the different orientation of the two. This is, please see, this is not a three-dimensional representation, but it is a representation. By looking at this itself, you can represent the entire molecule in 3 dimensions. Okay, if you write down the 3-dimensional structure, and then mirror image will be differing in terms of the orientation. So here is CHO and then CH2OH. Okay, now this where OH is represented here on the left hand side, this isomer is, this is also optically active, this is levorotatory. So this is a levoglyceraldehyde. Okay, now why we have discussed this? Because we are going to give this configuration a certain name to discriminate this orientation of structure from this orientation, where you have just one carbon optically active. So what we do is, this plus optically active glyceraldehyde is represented by, this structure is represented by D configuration. D configuration. So D is a configuration for for dextrorotatory glyceraldehyde. Similarly, levorotatory glyceraldehyde is called as L configuration. So this glyceraldehyde with optical activity plus is represented as D configuration, and similarly here this configuration where you are representing OH and H relatively opposite, that is L configuration. I said glucose is a dextrorotatory, so, and net, this is net optical activity, but then here we have tried to establish a structural connection between, and this is a Fischer projection. So if you look at this last portion of this entire glucose structure, let me highlight with this different color. If you look at this last portion of this glucose Fischer projection for this fifth carbon which is optically active, and try to relate with this portion of glyceraldehyde, you can see it matches with the D configuration, not with the L configuration. Okay, not that this structure has been drawn by considering the optical activity, this configuration has been drawn by considering the optical activity. Okay, one thing is clear. So related to this, opposite configuration is this, which is L configuration, and this structure of glucose, considering its optical activity and other property, is a Fischer representation, right? So that is how we are truly representing it properly. So if you compare this one, this portion, it is matching to this portion. Are you able to connect it? This portion. So terminal CH2OH, CH2OH, COHH, COHH, and then the top portion is this one. Considering these facts, we call this configuration of sugar glucose as D configuration. So glucose is called as D. Now considering this configuration also, I will because this configuration becomes the identity of this sugar. Okay, so it is called D dash plus glucose. This is the correct name of glucose. I want to write down certain experimental observations again further, which we have not talked about, because they point to something called cyclic structure of glucose. So there are a set of some preliminary observation, and I would like to enlist them first. Number one, glucose does not react or doesn't give reaction with the compound is any, okay, one is Schiff's base or Schiff's reagent. Remember something? Okay, I'll come back to it again. Second, NaHSO3. Why we have chosen these two? Well, we know glucose has aldehyde group. We have just established. So I'm saying that although these two guys they will recognize carbonyl presence, okay, carbonyl ग्रुप का प्रेजेंस, चाहे वो aldehyde हो या कीटोन हो, कुछ भी हो, तो aldehyde है अगर ग्लूकोज में. So although glucose has aldehyde group, okay, because these reactions should happen if there is a aldehyde or ketone, these reactions should happen, but and glucose gave some reaction for aldehyde, that's how on that basis only we could say that glucose has aldehyde group, okay, or in fact first thing that it has carbonyl group. पहली रिएक्शन हमने क्या देखी थी लास्ट क्लास के अंदर, देखिए हमने यहाँ पे देखा था कि ग्लूकोज जो है फॉर्मेशन ऑफ ऑक्साइम बाय रिएक्शन विथ हाइड्रोक्सिलामीन, दिस इज अ प्रेजेंटेशन दैट कार्बोनिल इज देयर, है ना, तो ये होता है. उसी तरह से हाइड्रोजन साइनाइड ये एडिशन प्रोडक्ट बनाता है, एडक्ट, है ना, इस तरह का प्रोडक्ट बनता है जहाँ पे OH जो हाइड्रोजन एंड साइनाइड दोनों अलग अलग लगे हुए हैं. ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज अ रिवर्सिबल रिएक्शन बट यू गेट टू सी दिस प्रोडक्ट. So these two are only possible if there is a carbonyl. Well, further establishment of aldehyde is another issue. But I am saying that similarly, there are more reactions. If you remember the list of those reactions, hydroxylamine was one of those reactions, reagent. If you remember that table, let me see if I can show you that. Yeah, here. Let me expand this. Remember, all these are reactions of carbonyl group. So we have just now seen that carbonyl can, this reaction happened with glucose, right? It gave cyanohydrine. But then carbonyl should also give the reaction with sodium bisulfite, NaHSO3, and give us this product which is like an adduct of this finally, okay? But problem is our glucose give reaction with this, but it doesn't react with this. It should not happen. If there is a carbonyl, it must give reaction with this also. That's a problem. Okay, another thing. Here, we just saw that glucose does react with hydroxylamine. These are all also the reaction of carbonyl only. Remember all this thing? Remember? So reaction with ammonia and its derivative. This was general thing. So derivative like this, NH2Z, and Z is a list of functional groups here. You can see that, all of these. So they also react and then give you some product. So our hydroxylamine reacted, this is hydroxylamine with glucose, it reacts and it gives the oxime. जहाँ पे कार्बोनिल होगा वहाँ पे ऑक्सीजन हट करके वाटर रिमूव होकर के इस तरह का डबल बॉन्ड बनता है. तो ये रिएक्शन तो होती है. अच्छा, सिफ्स बेस जो है वो ये भी कार्बोनिल के साथ में रिएक्ट करना चाहिए, जहाँ पे NH2 के साथ में अल्काइल ग्रुप जुड़ा हुआ है. तो यहाँ पे इसके साथ रिएक्शन होती है तो हमें इस तरह का जो सिप्स का जो डेरिवेटिव है वो मिलना चाहिए, और ये होना चाहिए अगर वो कार्बोनिल है तो, है ना, कार्बोनिल के साथ में अगर रिएक्शन होगी तो ये इस तरह से रिएक्शन होनी चाहिए. सो वही समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि भाई सिलेक्टिव क्यों है ग्लूकोज, कि कुछ रिएजेंट जो हैं उनके साथ तो रिएक्शन दे रहा है कार्बोनिल के, लेकिन कुछ के साथ नहीं दे रहा. तो क्या माज रहा है, कुछ तो होना चाहिए. ठीक है, वी विल सी दैट. Okay, where is it? Okay, so there is something that we are probably missing out. The reaction is not happening which should happen, and there must be something that we may be missing out as consideration. There may be something that we are not incorporating to consider for the functional group of this. So we need to consider that. Okay, anyway, we will see that later. Although glucose has aldehyde group, glucose does not react with this one. So these are all our experimental observations. These are all our experimental observation, and they must be pointing something else. So one thing. Second thing, important one. This one we will definitely not be able to understand right now until we know that it is cyclic. So just accept that. Now penta-acetate derivative of glucose, it does not react with hydroxylamine, NH2OH. Now that's something which is very strange. NH2OH hydroxylamine. Okay. Now please see, we have already looked at glucose does react with hydroxylamine. In the last case, we looked at the glucose does react with hydroxylamine. So कार्बोनिल ग्रुप जो है वो तो वहाँ पे जो आल्डिहाइड है वो तो हाइड्रोक्सिलामीन से रिएक्ट करता है. तो ऐसा क्या होता है कि जब ग्लूकोज का हमने एसिटिलेशन किया, जहाँ पे सारे के सारे OH ग्रुप को हमने पेंटा एसीटेट में कन्वर्ट कर दिया, तो हमें ऐसा क्या हो रहा है ग्लूकोज में कि अब हमें जो है उसके साथ में कार्बोनिल की रिएक्शन नहीं मिल रही है. वही अभी हम मतलब पेंटा एसीटेट जो है जब ये बनता है ग्लूकोज का, जहाँ पे हम केवल ये एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि ये जो सारे के सारे OH हैं केवल ये एसीटेट में कन्वर्ट हो जा रहे हैं, 5 OH जो है 5 एसीटेट में कन्वर्ट हो रहे हैं. तो ऐसा क्या है कि इसकी रिएक्शन चली जा रही है. ठीक है, सिर्फ इतनी सी बात है. Glucose can or reacts with hydroxylamine, its pentacetate derivative does not react. Okay, pentacetate derivative doesn't react with hydroxylamine, so we have to consider this also. Third thing, glucose, if you crystallize, it gives two type of crystals. Now it's not obvious, but if one who can examine the structure of the crystal and try to look at the properties of that solid, then it can be understood. So glucose gives, or it can give, actually I should write here, it can give two different types of crystals. Now crystal means I am talking about the solid glucose, right? Very clear. All these reactions are in aqueous phase, but what I am talking now is in the solid state. How does that happen? Well, it depends upon the reaction crystallization condition. Number one, if you crystallize glucose, aqueous glucose from its alcoholic solution. ओके, ग्लूकोज का एल्कोहल में भी आप पानी एक्वियस एंड एल्कोहलिक सॉल्यूशन आप बना सकते हो. ठीक है, मिक्स करके एक्वियस एंड एल्कोहलिक. और इसमें से जब, बिकॉज उसकी सॉल्युबिलिटी बढ़ती है ना, आप ग्लूकोज भी तो एक्चुअली खाली आयोनिक कंपाउंड तो नहीं है ना, ऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड है. तो ऑर्गेनिक अगर हमने ये कंडीशन ली पहली, जहाँ पे ग्लूकोज जो है एक्वियस और एल्कोहलिक कॉम्बिनेशन जो है उसमें ये लो टेम्परेचर पे अगर हम इसका क्रिस्टलाइजेशन होने देते हैं, मतलब लगभग 303 केल्विन के आसपास, ये किताब में नंबर दिए हैं तो आप ध्यान रखिए थोड़ा सा इसको. अगर हम इस टेम्परेचर कंडीशन पे अगर हम इसको क्रिस्टलाइज करते हैं तो हमें इसका एक क्रिस्टल मिलता है. लेट मी कॉल दैट एज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज अल्फा क्रिस्टल. अल्फा क्रिस्टल, अल्फा इज जस्ट द नेम, अगेन अल्फा क्रिस्टल ऑफ ग्लूकोज. मेल्टिंग टेम्परेचर तो वो आता है लगभग 419 केल्विन. ठीक है. अच्छा, अगर एक सब्सटेंस है और एक ही तरह का है उसका फॉर्मूला, स्ट्रक्चर, सब कुछ, तो चाहे आप कोई भी क्रिस्टलाइजिंग कंडीशन से शुरुआत कीजिए, आपको क्रिस्टल एक ही तरह का मिलना चाहिए, है ना, हमने सॉलिड स्टेट में पढ़ा था. तो कंडीशन पे अगर किसी का क्रिस्टल डिपेंड करता है, जैसे मान लो मैं दूसरा एक कंडीशन देता हूँ, एक्सपेरिमेंटल कंडीशन, कि इसी ग्लूकोज का अगर आप एक्वियस सॉल्यूशन लेते हो, saturated, because now it is just the aqueous, so saturated solution Okay, all right. So there is something called as Haworth projection, or basically Haworth structure representation, Haworth projection or structure of cyclic form of glucose. Because you remember in Fisher projection, you are not able to give a right kind of impression about that ring in the formation in these isomers. Okay, Fisher projection is good enough to represent a linear form, but this cyclic form is not represented properly. Let's move to the Haworth projection, and this one, as I said, it compares first of all the arrangement with a known organic molecule. This is not something that you have to know actually, but anyway, there is a lot of analogy that is drawn from this structure. This is a 6-membered ring, okay, and this has got 2 double bonds like this. This is a molecule called pyran. Okay, now this, if you look at the cyclic form of glucose, that also have something similar in terms of arrangement. So Haworth projection actually draws certain parallel analogy between this structure and the cyclic form of glucose. So the structure is drawn in a way so that as if it looks like as if it is horizontally flattened. How do you do that? First of all, count the number of members here. You can say that, let's say this is your carbon number 1. This one, I would say, this is your carbon number 1. This is your carbon number 2. This is your carbon number 3. This is your carbon number 4. Then you have carbon number 5, and the 6th carbon basically is represented as CH2OH here. CH2OH. So this is the entire, and this oxygen between 5th carbon and 1st carbons. Okay, the alkoxy oxygen is between 5th carbon and your 1st carbon. Remember? The thing is that now the orientation of OH group, that is important. One thing that is not given in the book, for this structure to be felt as if it is a horizontally flattened, is there is a missing thing which is a part of Haworth projection. So what we do is we represent this side as a little bit wedge. Wedge means, just like if suppose if you have to represent methane, the 2 bonds can be represented as a solid line in the piece of paper. The 3rd bond, if you can show it as if it is coming out of the piece of the paper with this kind of wedge structure, and the 1 bond which seems to be going behind the piece of paper, that is represented by the dashed wedge, something like this, kind of triangle which is getting narrower and narrow, and this triangle getting bigger and bigger when it is coming forward. So this is how you represent methane, right? This is a tetrahedral structure. In the similar manner, just to give a feel that this structure also is a horizontally flattened structure of the ring, what we generally do is we try to bring there are 2 wedges here. You can see that. Okay, these wedges are solid wedge as if they are coming out of the piece of paper. So consider carbon number 1 and carbon number 4 on the piece of paper, only carbon number 4 and carbon number 1 on the piece of paper, and the entire of this half ring is as if it is horizontally coming out of the piece of paper towards us. Okay, so this is how it is darkened. In the book it is not given, but this is the real way of representation of Haworth projection. Okay, now you can see it better gives us the feel that it is a ring structure, and half of this ring, now you will be more confident to write something above and below the ring. Otherwise, if you simply consider the way it is given in the book, it is hard to realize which one is above and which one is below. Now I can treat this ring as if it is flattened horizontally, dissecting the plane of the paper. You follow what I'm saying? Horizontal, and the plane of the paper is vertical. So this is perpendicular to the piece of paper. Okay, then we start to put the groups here. Okay, how do we do that? So what we do is, let's say I am interested in first representing the alpha form of glucose. So in alpha form, you remember I was showing the structure and I said that the OH group that you have to represent is on the, it was on the, in Fisher projection it was on the, here, if you remember the Fisher projection here, this one on the left hand side. So the left hand side OH will be represented downwards. So we do that here OH. Let's first represent, fill up the whole thing with the OH representation. Second carbon, anyway OH is downward, right? Again downward because it is on the left hand side in Fisher projection. Then this OH must be represented above the ring in Haworth projection because it was shown as on the right hand side in Fisher projection. Okay, then comes fourth carbon. Again on the fourth carbon it should be represented downwards because it was shown as left hand side OH group. And I told you, now you know that in Fisher projection the fifth OH group, the OH group on the fifth carbon also lies on the left hand side. Look at this, right? On the fifth carbon the OH group also lies on the left hand side, and in this ring drawing we are not able to discriminate that, right, ki whether it is on the left hand side or right hand side, because that's why I said that Fisher projection is not suitable enough to represent the three dimensionality of the ring form, because now the reaction between the first carbon and the fifth carbon has a specific orientation, and that's what has happened. We have told you, I told you that the OH group which was originally downward aligns to the carbon oxygen here and then forms this ether group. So now you don't have OH group at all, but the hydrogen which was originally somewhere, now it orients itself towards downward. Okay, so this is all your what is that called, Haworth projection. In many books you will find that the hydrogens are also not shown as if this structure is complete, but I will show the hydrogen because that way you will be able to actually recall, and in your book also they have shown, so you should show, I think, correct? So hydrogen, if you show, fill up the remaining thing which is hydrogen. Here also you will have hydrogen. Once you have practiced enough you will be able to remember also. Right now I have spent time simply to explain so that you can keep it in mind properly and don't make the mistake. So this hydrogen now has to be shown downward here. Now that's why I was mainly cautioning you about this hydrogen, because with your previous impression you might think that this hydrogen should have been somewhere above, but actually, and the OH is downward, but OH is no more there. OH has reacted by aligning itself to the oxygen of carbonyl carbon, and that has taken, think about this, that OH has taken the orientation like this, think about that. So with regard to that, this hydrogen has aligned differently, and this is represented above here, CH2H. So here is your carbon number 1, carbon number 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. So this is the representation of alpha D, alpha D. D is a conformation, and then plus, we know the optical activity of glucose is always plus, which is dextro rotation, and then glucose. Now I want to add something. So this name is correct, there is nothing wrong with this. Okay, absolutely correct. You have incorporated alpha form, means cyclic structure. Considerably this structure looks, as I said, that very similar to this one, just the outer framework, not the structure wise actually, but the outer framework, considering the number of members and then oxygen's linkage here somewhere in the middle. So this structure, this compound is referred to as pyran. Okay, borrowing a certain similarity and then adding to this glucose sometimes is also referred to as alpha D plus glucopyranose, just because it has a certain structural similarity to pyran. Okay, so O's for glucose, glucose. So something pyran has been put in between, like the O has been put on both the side, and there is a certain suffix. You must realize what are the differences between the alpha and the beta form, and the differences are not much, just the orientation of OH group here. So if you consider the OH group on the first carbon, this one here, if you put it on the opposite side, that means originally in Fischer projection this was on right hand side, so it takes the position above the ring and hydrogen downward. That's all is the difference between this and this. So this becomes your beta D-glucose or beta D-glucopyranose. Clear, guys?